As mentioned, my name is Alex Dahl, and I work with Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, Schreck. It's a great honor to be here today talking to such an important and well-run organization and to all of you. As was mentioned, I'm here to talk on behalf of the Coalition for Patient Safety and Medicine Integrity. This is an informal coalition that was put together for the purpose of helping to make sure that patient safety is not compromised by the criminal behavior of stealing medical products and returning them into the legitimate supply chain. The members of the coalition include Abbott, Eli Lilly, GlaxoSmithKline, Johnson & Johnson, Novartis, Novo Nordisk, Sanofi Aventis, and Pharma. We also get important support from a couple of organizations, including the Pharmaceutical Security Institute and Tom Kubik, and NICB, the National Insurance Crime Bureau. So what are we doing? What we are doing is asking Congress to modernize the criminal code to reflect the reality of what's happening with the criminal organizations who are stealing medical products and returning them to the legitimate supply chain. The reason that I'm involved is that my firm of Brownstein, Hyatt Farber Schreck, includes a team of people like myself who have both experience on the judiciary committees and former Department of Justice prosecutors or high-level people. We have Republicans and Democrats, House and Senate, and that is why we're involved in this effort. So what is the crime problem? The crime problem is that large, sophisticated criminal organizations are undertaking methodical efforts to steal large amounts of medical products from trucks and warehouses, and as part of a scheme to return them, sell them back into the legitimate supply chain. The patient safety aspect of this, which is what motivated the formation of this coalition, is that almost all medical products require some degree of care and mostly climate control to maintain safety and efficacy. That is particularly true of some of the highest value medical products out there, which of course are the most interesting to these sophisticated criminal organizations. So for example, even though all kinds of medical products are being subject to this, criminals are particularly interested in things like cancer treatments, insulin, biologics, things that are particularly susceptible to high temperature and that are particularly difficult to tell whether they have been tainted in that way. Most biologics, when they are effective and active, come in vials that look like water, and when they have been heated to a temperature which kills the living cells, they still look like water. The really insidious part about this is that it's very difficult for anyone to notice, whether healthcare professionals or the patients, and perhaps easy for a healthcare person to conclude that a patient is simply not responding rather than that the dose that they're using has been made ineffective by the inappropriate treatment given by these criminals. So how are they going about their business? Some of them are very sophisticated. They're conducting surveillance of warehouses, surveillance of the trucking routes. They know when trucks leave, where they stop, and where they're going. They go to a rest stop that may have dozens or hundreds of trucks, and they pick out the one that has the high-value pharmaceutical products. They often will hire a truck driver or someone to drive the truck a very short distance. That's how they can get them out of the truck stops. They might pay the person an extraordinary sum of money for a few minutes' work to drive the truck to the next rest stop and wait to see if anybody is coming. They will empty the truck, strip off all of the GPS units on the pallets, paint the truck, put the products in a different truck. There are all kinds of ways that these are dealt with, but they vanish, and sometimes it seems to be one of their standard operating procedures to hold on to these products to make sure that there's a sort of a cooling off, that nobody's chasing after them before they put them back into the supply chain, which is what gives rise to this patient safety aspect that I've talked about. Pharmaceutical thefts are the highest value thefts in the category of cargo theft, which is a very large and rapidly increasing criminal phenomenon. According to FreightWatch, the average theft of cargo is valued at about $350,000. The average theft of pharmaceutical and broadly medical products in 2008 was 1.5 million. In 2009 was 2.5 million, and in 2010 was 3.7 million. So the value of these shipments is growing. I'll give you two of the big examples, although there are unfortunately many of them. Last year, on a rainy spring weekend, sophisticated criminals broke into a warehouse of a large pharmaceutical company by cutting a hole in the roof, rappelling with ropes down to the warehouse floor, disabling alarm systems, and spending probably a couple of hours using the company's forklift to pick and choose exactly the products they wanted. They moved some things out of the way to get to what they wanted. These thieves brought their own truck, filled it up, and drove out. There's been an extensive investigation and crime scene done very well by the local police and others, but unfortunately none of those products have been found and no arrests have been made in the case. The value of the product stolen is approximately $75 million. A year before that, in North Carolina, a truck was stolen that contained about 130,000 vials of insulin. The way that law enforcement eventually started tracking the fact that had gotten back into the supply chain is that somebody showed up at an emergency room with complications from insulin use and reported that he had in fact used his insulin. Pieces of product insulin from that shipment have been traced now to 17 different states, even though only a fraction of those products have been identified. So you might ask what the industry is doing. Well, the industry is doing a lot. They're hardening the perimeters of their sites. They are instituting serious rules for their truck drivers and their routes of travel. They're putting 2 drivers in a truck. They're restricting where and when they can stop. And in some cases, they're actually providing escorts for their own high-value shipments. But the industry can't solve this problem by itself. There's an important criminal legal aspect to this. The criminal statutes that would typically be used in cases like this don't contemplate the patient safety and risk profile of these crimes, and they don't contemplate that these are, as I've said, sophisticated criminal organizations that are going about this. So, for example, the 2 typical statutes that are used in a case really are statutes that are for stealing a truck. They don't particularly care whether it's televisions or biologics. The average sentence for those statutes is about a year. The issue from the law enforcement point of view is that when you get a case of a truck driver who's facing 1 year, he's probably going to plead guilty straight up, and that's the end of the case. What you want as a prosecutor is to have some tools to reach further into the case and start unraveling the organization. You want that person to be facing a sentence that makes him want to cooperate with the government so that you can ask him, where did you meet the person? How did you pick the truck? Where did they tell you to take the truck? What did they tell you about what they were going to do with the truck? And how was the information communicated, and how did you agree on payment? Those kinds of things. That's how you start bringing down the criminal organization. You use one person to find another and another. So the end result of our our work on this matter, as is mentioned, is the legislation currently pending that's called the Safe Doses Act. It's S-1002. This bill not only increases the maximum allowable criminal penalties, but also provides some well-known tools for law enforcement to use, including the ability in appropriate cases to ask a judge for a wiretap. One of the things you know about an organization that's conducting surveillance is that they are communicating it. If you know that they're communicating it, you know that if a judge approves, you can see and hear what the criminals are telling each other when they're plotting these kinds of crimes. So the Safe Doses Act also provides meaningful tools for law enforcement. The idea behind this is not only to provide the tools that will bring down these organizations, but also provide the prosecutors with the incentive to go after these cases and make big cases out of the small ones that they have. It's a challenging legislative environment, to say the least, in Washington right now. Nevertheless, we've achieved some astonishing success. The Safe Doses Act was introduced by Senator Schumer of New York and Senator Kyle of Arizona. There are not many legislative items that have that kind of high-profile bipartisan support from the get-go. Since introduction, we have also garnered the support of 27 co-sponsors in the Senate, including 9 on the Judiciary Committee, the committee with jurisdiction over the bill. We're very pleased with this unusual success, but we are working especially hard now that we're getting closer to the end of the year. Our goal is to get this legislation passed by the committees, passed by both houses of Congress, signed into law, and the tools and penalties available for the prosecutors to stop this criminal behavior that is putting patient safety at risk. Thank you very much.